Good morning, everyone. In the previous video, we talked about general things that you have to consider when you are studying for your physical science papers. Now, last time we focused on physics, and this time we're looking at chemistry. With chemistry, you have to be able to speak the language of chemistry. And the language of chemistry is all about elements. So if you look at the periodic table, remember, you need to know all the symbols of the elements that we use often. And then before you start learning, you have to focus on how to write a formula of a compound. If you're doing stoichiometry, for instance, if they ask you to work out the percentage composition of sodium phosphate and you're not able to write that formula of that compound, you won't be able to do the question. Now, it's not that difficult. Hydrogen, lithium, sodium, potassium. The first four are all in group 1 on our periodic table, and that's why they take a +1 charge. And in group 2, you've got the beryllium and the magnesium and calcium, so they're going to be +2. So you don't have to learn all of these by heart, but you have to know that some of them are transition metals, right? They are part of the middle part of your periodic table, and they tend to have more than one oxidation state, more than one possible charge. So here we just have to learn the ones that can have only one charge. Silver, for instance, is something that only ever takes a +1 charge, and you need to know that. And then zinc and nickel, you have to know they take +2 and only ever +2. The rest you will see from the table, they have that 2 in the name as well. Now, when you look at the negative ions, some are ending in "ide", some are ending in "ite", and some are ending in "ate". Now, what is the difference between those ending in "ide", "ite", and "ate"? Whenever it's "ide", can you see there's only the element, there's no oxygen. But with "ite" and "ate", "ite" and "ate", you will have oxygen as well. So when it's ending in "ide", it's just going to be that element, and you can find the charge from the periodic table. So when something ends in "ide", there's not going to be any oxygen in here, and you can find their charge on the periodic table. Things in group 1. So things in group 7 is going to be -1 because they need 1 electron to reach their noble gas structure. Things in group 6 are going to be -2. Things in group 5 are going to be -3. So when it ends in "ide", no oxygen except oxide itself, and also hydroxide, which has obviously got oxygen in there. Then "ite" and "ate, both got oxygen. What is the difference between "ite" and "ate"? "Ite", NO2, "ate", NO3. There. Sulfite, NO3, sulfate, NO4. So here you'll see "ite" and "ate have both got oxygen, but "ite" will have less oxygen and "ate" will have more oxygen. So you still have to learn them, but this will help you not to mix them up. So you need to be able to write the formula for any compound so that you can use that in an equation or in a calculation. You also need to be able to balance reactions. So go back to your grade 10 book and go and practice that if you don't feel comfortable with that. Now, when we look at the topics that you have to cover for your chemistry paper, now, especially in this year with COVID-19, not all schools are going to write the same exam papers. Your school can choose if they want to or if they're writing their own papers. So in this year, you really have to check with your teachers. You can expect the things that are going to be assessed in grade 12 to be there. But something like gases, for instance, is not a matric topic. When you look at chemical change, the first topic there is stoichiometry. Now that is all our mole calculations, and that is definitely going to be in that paper, and a lot of them, because this is very important for matric. In matric, we're going to incorporate stoichiometry into all out topics like acids and bases and rates of reaction and even chemical equilibrium. So guys, make sure that you've got your stoichiometry, that you know how to work out the limiting agent, that you know how to work out percentage purity, percentage composition, how to work out the empirical formula when they give you the percentage composition. Then we look at energy and chemical change. Now this is very important for matric. When you get to matric and you do chemical equilibrium, this is going to be the backbone on which we're going to build. Then we get to type of reactions. Now this here, that is something that your teacher might limit. Now types of reactions include acids and bases and also redox reactions and oxidation numbers. But this is something that your teacher might leave out because we are going to do that in matric as well. So just check with your teacher if you need to do acids and bases and also redox reactions for your exam. Then we get to molecular structures. Now that was all the work that we did in that very first term of the year. You drew Lewis structures, and then from that we determined the shapes of the molecules. And from the shapes of the molecules we determined if things are symmetrical or not and whether they're polar or non-polar. And that is important because you need to know that to determine what intermolecular force is acting between molecules. And then that intermolecular force also determines the physical characteristics like boiling point and vapor pressure. And then we get to gases. There you've got all the gas laws and also ideal gases and how they differ from real gases. Now, since gases is not a matric topic, your teacher might choose to limit that to just one law or two laws or whatever. So just make sure that you check with your teacher. So guys, for all of this, I recommend that you take your exam guidelines, check what is in the exam guidelines and discuss this with your teachers and make sure that you know exactly what in that exam guidelines will be in your exam and what will not be there. And once again, remember, grade 11 final marks are the marks that's going to determine if you will be accepted at university for the course that you really want to do. So this is very important. Focus, sit down, and really think about what you're doing.